Before I start, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more stories like this. My name's Billy, and at 27 years old, I was just making coffee when my phone buzzed. It was a video message from Mrs. Langford, our old neighbor. I hadn't heard from her in years, and seeing her name on my screen instantly unearthed memories I thought I'd buried forever. The message was brief. No greeting, no explanation, just a single line. I'm so sorry about your parents. I can't believe what I saw today. My stomach clenched as I opened the video. It showed a church, one I knew well. St. Albans, the same place my parents used to take me for Christmas Eve services when I was a child. The camera zoomed in slowly toward the podium. There they were, my parents. My mother in black lace and pearls, dabbing away fake tears. My father stiff and solemn, hands trembling as he read from a sheet of paper. Behind them sat a casket. Next to it, my photograph, large and framed, surrounded by flowers. I froze. No. My father's voice echoed through my phone. She was always a troubled girl, but we loved her. We did everything we could. My vision blurred. He was reading a eulogy. My obituary. Though she left this world far too young, we pray her soul finds peace. What? I wasn't dead. I was alive, standing in my apartment, breathing, shaking. This couldn't be real. I scrubbed back the video, replaying it over and over. Their faces didn't change. Their voices carried no real grief. They were calm, controlled, rehearsed. I gripped the edge of the counter, hands trembling. What the hell is going on? I whispered. Why are they doing this? I hadn't spoken to them in years, not since they cut me off, disowned me like a stain on their reputation. But to hold a funeral? To declare me dead? The more I watched, the colder it felt. My mother spoke of a tragic accident. There was no accident. My father talked about my final years in isolation. I was working, living, surviving. They knew that. So why? Why were they doing this? I sat down slowly, the phone still playing. The video ended with the camera panning across the mourners, distant relatives, family, friends, even my childhood piano teacher. All there, all dressed in black, all believing I was gone. No one had tried to reach me. I played the video again, desperate to prove to myself I wasn't imagining it. But the truth was undeniable. They hadn't just erased me. They buried me alive. And in that moment, one thing became absolutely clear. This wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. It hadn't always been like this. There was a time when I believed family meant safety, loyalty. That illusion shattered 3 years ago. The day I was thrown out of my own life like trash swept under a rug. If you've ever felt betrayed by the very people who should have been your greatest support, let me know where you're watching from. Here's the truth. It wasn't me who stole the money. It was Elena, my younger sister, the golden child who could do no wrong. She embezzled nearly $80,000 from our family's business account, feeding a reckless lifestyle she couldn't afford. When the books caught fire and the numbers didn't add up, our parents needed someone to blame. And I was convenient. I'll never forget what my mother hissed at me in the kitchen. Better one ruined daughter than two. My father didn't even look at me when he said it. You humiliated us. You're no longer our daughter. The next morning I was gone. No money. No explanation to anyone. Just silence. I tried calling, texting. I sent letters. Nothing. My number was blocked. Family friends stopped answering. One by one, doors that had always been open slammed shut. I became a ghost. Not just to them, but to the entire world that had once known me. Eventually, I did what broken people do. I left. I moved abroad, got a job in a cafe, changed my number, learned to live quietly. I stopped posting online. I barely said my name aloud. And yet, deep down, I held on to a flicker of hope. Hope that one day anyone would call, ask if I was okay, tell me it had all been a mistake. That day never came. Something worse did. Last year, I tried renewing my old email, but it wouldn't go through. When I contacted support, they told me the account had been deactivated due to a report of user death. My name had been officially marked as deceased, digitally erased. They hadn't just disowned me. They deleted me. I couldn't sleep that night. The video looped in my mind. Their voices, their fake grief, my face next to a casket I'd never seen. My own funeral without me. Something wasn't right. So I started digging. First, I called Aunt Rachel, my mother's older sister. We hadn't spoken in years, but she used to sneak me candy at reunions. She answered on the second ring. "Hello, Aunt Rachel. It's me. It's Billy." Silence. Then a click. She hung up. I called again. Blocked. Next, I tried my cousins. One sent a thumbs up emoji and never replied. Another asked, "Is this some kind of sick joke?" No one believed I was me except one. My youngest cousin, Sam, the one who always looked up to me as a kid. He texted back, hesitant. "Billy, are you really alive?" "Yes. I need to know the truth." "What did they tell everyone?" The typing bubble blinked for a long time. Then, "They said you died in a car crash overseas 3 years ago." My stomach dropped. They had a whole story. Said it happened while I was traveling. Too late to bring me home. Cremation. Closed casket. I nearly dropped my phone. There had never been a car crash. I'd never even owned a car abroad. Something in me snapped. I pulled out every document I had. Passport stamps, rental records, immigration papers. I had never been in an accident. I had never gone missing. They forged it. They declared me legally dead. I stared at the screen, motionless. This wasn't grief. This wasn't shock. This was a cover-up. But what secret could possibly be worth burying me alive? I should have stopped digging. But once you realize your own family has entombed you on paper, you have to know why. The answer was hidden somewhere I hadn't checked in years. Elena's Instagram. Her profile had gone public again. And there it was, a shimmering carousel of images. White roses, champagne towers, and a diamond the size of a planet. Elena's wedding. Everyone was there. Aunt Rachel smiling like she'd never hung up on me. My cousins clinking glasses. Even great Uncle Theo, who lived abroad and never came to anything. But not me. Not a mention. Not a photo. Not even a passing wish. Billy could have been there. But I was gone, erased, like I had never existed. Until I looked closer. One photo from the reception caught my eye. A toast in progress. Her husband stood beaming. And next to him, my father. A wine glass in his hand, a microphone in the other, grinning under the caption. "To the one daughter who always made us proud." There it was. The switch. Not just forgotten, replaced. Driven by suspicion, I pulled up the family business registry. A few clicks later, my blood turned to ice. The trust fund my grandparents left me, college tuition, startup capital, everything, had been transferred to Elena 6 months after my death. Legally, silently. She didn't mourn me. She cashed me in. I stared at her smiling face, her white dress glittering in the sun, and it hit me. My sister hadn't just stepped into my place. She had erased me. Enough was enough. If they wanted me dead, they were about to see exactly how alive I still was. The next morning, I walked into a law office with a stack of documents and a fire burning in my chest. Passport stamps, employment contracts, tax returns, lease agreements, flight records, proof, undeniable, unforgivable. The young attorney across from me looked stunned. "You're challenging your own death?" I slid the forged certificate across the desk. "I'm not dead," I said evenly, "but I plan to haunt them." He blinked, then nodded slowly. "Then we'll begin with a fraud complaint and a motion to revoke the declaration of death. It'll take time." "I don't have time," I cut him off. "Apparently, I've got a memorial this Sunday." His head snapped up. Earlier that day, a message had come from an unknown number. Just one line. "They're holding a memorial for you next Sunday at St. Albans." No name. No explanation. But I knew the church. I knew the address. It was real. And so was my plan. That night I stood at my apartment window, the city lights glittering like sparks waiting for gasoline. They dressed me in lies. They buried me in silence. They pretended I never existed. But now I had a stage. Let them grieve. Let them sob. Let them perform. And when the curtain rises, we'll give them a funeral to remember. St. Alban had never been so full. Cars lined the street like a parade of mourning. The heavy church doors swung open just long enough to admit mourners dressed in black, weeping and whispering, hugging one another as if tragedy had brushed their own lives. I watched from across the street. Black coat, sunglasses, still invisible. It was surreal, like watching a play about a character who looked like me, spoke like me, but wasn't me at all. Inside, the performance had already begun. The organ droned something slow and tragic. Candles flickered beneath my photo, the same one from the fake obituary. I remembered the day it was taken. Back then, my smile had been real. My father stood at the pulpit, face grave, voice pitched to carry. She was troubled, but we loved her. She lost her way, and though we couldn't reach her, we never stopped praying she'd come back. My mother sat front row, dabbing at her eyes with lace-trimmed tissues like she'd rehearsed the scene for weeks. Her sobs were delicate, perfect, and Elena, she stood clutching her pearls as if they were the only thing keeping her heart from falling apart. My sister Billy was complicated, but she was mine. I wish I could have said goodbye. A lie wrapped in a tear, tied with a bow. I stepped closer to the door, just enough to hear it. The priest lifted his hand solemnly. May she rest in peace. I exhaled slowly. Not yet. The play was still running, but the star hadn't arrived. Let us now stand for a moment of silence. The priest's voice echoed like a final curtain call. Everyone rose, heads bowed, eyes closed, hands folded politely over hearts. And in that breathless pause, I pushed open the doors. The sound was sharp, deliberate. Two heavy oak doors groaning like a tomb splitting in two. Cold daylight spilled into the church, flooding the aisle like a spotlight. I stepped into it, slow, measured. Each heel strike on the marble floor cracked the silence like a gunshot. Click, click, click. Gasps. A few turned, then more. Whispers spread like wildfire. Is that? It can't be. A child's voice pierced the tension. Mom, isn't that her? I removed my sunglasses. Eyes met mine wide, disbelieving, terrified. My mother's face drained of color. Her lips trembled. Then she collapsed, a perfect, dramatic faint. Her body dropped like she'd practiced it. My father's mouth fell open. The wine glass slipped from his hand. It shattered against the pew. Elena's gaze met mine and froze. Her jaw locked tight as her fingers twisted her pearl necklace like a lifeline. A half-filled glass of champagne slipped from her hand, splashing across her flawless white heels. The priest blinked in shock and stepped back. I kept walking. Every head in the room turned, eyes trailing after me like they weren't sure if they were staring at a ghost or a reckoning. Maybe I was both. I stayed silent. No words were needed. My presence was the thunder that follows a lie. The consequence they prayed would never appear. By the time I reached the altar, the air itself seemed to hold its breath. I turned, faced the crowd, and smiled. Let the truth begin. I stood before them beneath my own portrait, the same picture they used at my funeral, the one they buried me with. Dozens of eyes stared, wide and unblinking, like I had clawed my way out of the grave. Good. Let them stare. I cleared my throat and broke the silence. I heard I was dead. I'm here to correct the story. A ripple shivered through the room. No one moved. Phones dangled uselessly in hands. Not one person remembered to hit record. There was no accident. No tragic crash overseas. No closed casket because the body couldn't be identified. For my coat, I drew a thick folder, stamped, sealed, marked with government emblems and international dates. Here are my passport stamps, my job records, tax filings, leases. I've been alive. I've been working. I've been surviving. The only thing I lost was you. I turned toward my parents. You told the world I was dead. Faked the papers. Filed the certificate. When I was legally gone, my eyes slid to Elena, frozen in place, clutching her pearls. You transferred everything to her, my trust fund, my inheritance, my life. Elena's lips parted, a sound caught in her throat. I cut her off. Hope you're enjoying the house you bought with my money. A low murmur rolled through the crowd like distant thunder. Someone whispered, she has proof. Another gasped. A red light blinked, a phone finally recording. Good, I said. Let the world see this for what it was. Not a funeral. A cover-up. You didn't lose a daughter, I told my father. You threw her away, and now you're watching her walk back in. The lies were ashes, and I had just struck the match. My father's face went pale. My mother trembled. Elena looked hollow, defeated. No pearls left to clutch. You buried me to protect yourselves, I said evenly. But I came back to haunt you with the truth. No shouting followed. No more lies. Only silence, heavy and final. As I walked out, the church bells began to ring. Fitting. Funeral bells. But this time not for me. Montage. I handed the folder to my lawyer. Signed the final page. Watched my death certificate torn in half. My legal resurrection complete. An investigation opened. Fraud, false reporting, embezzlement. Let them try to lie now. Voiceover, steady, quiet. Sometimes you have to die in their world to be reborn in your own. And this time, I wasn't coming back for forgiveness. I was coming back for freedom. The days after felt unreal, like walking through ashes of a fire that almost devoured me. I had been invisible, erased, buried beneath their lies. Now my name was mine again. But freedom had a cost. News spread like wildfire. The video from the church went online within hours. Headlines screamed, "Woman crashes her own funeral." Social media dissected my face, my voice, my story like I was a TV character. But this wasn't entertainment. This was my life. At night, lying awake to the hum of the city, I wondered how far my family would go to silence me again. They had already killed me once on paper. What was next? The knock came 2 weeks later. Sam, my youngest cousin, the only one who believed me, stood at my door. He glanced over his shoulder, nervous. "They're scared, Billy," he whispered. "Uncle's been calling around trying to clean things up." "Clean things up?" I asked. "Erase the evidence. Claim I forged everything." I gave a bitter laugh. "Of course. They'll bury the truth the same way they buried me." Sam reached into his jacket and handed me a USB drive. I found this in Aunt Rachel's desk. Emails, bank transfers, proof Elena took the money, proof they framed you. My throat tightened. "Why are you helping me?" "Because when I was a kid, you were the only one who made me feel like I mattered. I can't let them destroy you." For the first time in years, something warm spread through my chest. Gratitude, loyalty. The kind I thought no longer existed in my bloodline. We loaded the files onto my laptop. Wire transfers, forged signatures, messages between Elena and my father planning the cover-up. It was all there. The truth. The lawsuit grew teeth. Fraud, conspiracy, embezzlement. My parents and Elena trapped in their own web. But revenge alone wasn't enough. One night, staring out at the city lights, I realized I didn't just want justice. I wanted my life back. The years they stole, the future they tried to erase. So I started small. I reached out to old friends, people who thought I was dead. Some cried when they saw me. Others apologized for believing the lies. Slowly, the ghosts they made me into began to fade. I had a voice again, a presence. The hardest part was trusting myself. I had let their betrayal define me for too long. No more. When the trial date arrived, I walked into the courthouse with my head high. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted. I kept moving. Inside, Elena sat stiff beside her lawyer, her pearls gone. My parents avoided my eyes, masks of shame and defiance. The judge read the charges, the evidence, Sam's files, the forged certificate. Every lie unraveled. When Elena took the stand, her voice cracked. She admitted nothing, blamed stress, claimed ignorance, but the papers spoke louder. My parents stayed silent, cowards to the end. When the verdict came, I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just breathed. Guilty. Fraud. Embezzlement. Conspiracy. My trust fund restored. My legal name reinstated. Their lies wiped off my record. But there was no victory parade. No joy in their downfall. Just the heavy, quiet weight of freedom, mine to carry. Months later, I rented a small studio near the cafe where I worked. I began writing again. Something I had abandoned when they cut me off. Words returned like blood rushing back to a numb limb. Sam visited often. We laughed, remembered summers, made plans for a future that once felt impossible. For the first time in years, I let myself dream. Yet sometimes before dawn, I think of that church, the silence when I walked down the aisle, the eyes fixed on me like I was both ghost and storm. That moment will never leave me. I had been buried alive, but I clawed my way back. Not for revenge, not for them, for me. Because survival isn't always about forgiveness. Sometimes it's about resurrection. And this time, the life I was building wasn't borrowed. It was mine, entirely mine. This story doesn't end with a funeral. It begins here. My name is Billy. I was erased, declared dead, forgotten. Now I'm alive,